What's going on, Vol Nation? Frank, House of Orange TV, back at it, back with you. Let's recap some Tennessee fall ball. A lot to talk about. What ended up, it was one we went into excited to see what the roster was going to look like, and who would have known when this thing started that we would have a total coaching change along the way. But things are still looking good. This team's still loaded. This team is still ready to make it to Omaha. Hit that like, that share, that subscribe along the way. Obviously, we get into it. We get in middle October. Late September, it was announced when Bob Melvin was let go of the San Francisco Giants. Andrew Baggerly of The Athletic put out an article, and he mentioned one Tony Vitello. People didn't take it serious at the time based on the details of it. I thought this is something to keep an eye on because it said Vitello and Buster Posey had already met, or it was believed they had, when the Colorado Rockies and Giants had played and Vitello was in attendance on it. As things went along, the chatter never stopped. It never stopped along the way. And then it comes out middle October, actually the third Saturday in October, day of Alabama, a dark day for Tennessee athletics in that respect, that Vitello was finalizing the deal to become the next manager of the San Francisco Giants. Fast forward a few days later, as after the Toronto-Seattle series wrapped up, the Giants did name him their new manager. Tennessee shifts their coaching search. They had interviews with Coastal Carolina's coach, it was believed. But a couple days in, all of a sudden, we find out. And myself, I put out a video for it. And others, a lot of others, said it. The obvious choice here was Josh Elander. The thing I was watching was there was all this stuff of riffs behind the scenes, and Vitello and Elander couldn't stand Danny White and all. To me, was it perfect? No, it wasn't. I don't think there's any doubt I don't think they were best buddies or nothing, but ends up it was all a bunch of bullshit. A lot of it was a bunch of bullshit that was put out there, because you can't sit here and tell me Danny White would have turned around and hired Josh Elander. If not, he did. He made the right decision, the smart decision, and here we are. You saw the reaction from those players when Josh Elander walked in and Danny White announced him as the head coach. That told you then and there. That was the hire that was needed now. We'll see how it goes down the line. I think it's the safest hire to work out. And then, obviously with that, they kept everybody in place. He added Chuck Girolamo, who was Florida's interim head coach. There was a relationship going back to when Josh Elander was at TCU. And Elander said they stayed in touch over the years, talked pretty much every week. And so it's a good hire. It's a really good hire. He's a good coach, comes from a rival as well. He's going to bring a lot to the table for this squad. I'm not sitting here saying Elander's an upgrade or nothing like that. I'm not going to downplay it, okay? But I think there's some things with Elander I'm curious to see how he manages the team versus Vitello, because you guys know I question some of Vitello's moves, but from what I've questioned the shifts, but from what I've heard, based on, people who saw some of the fall ball stuff this week, they're still shifting pretty heavily. That may not go away. I'm curious to see how Elander manages the pitching staff versus how Vitello did. I've been pretty open that I've disagreed numerous times with how Vitello managed the pitching. I still think the way he managed 2022 cost them the College World Series that year. And 2024, there was some questions that I thought almost cost them, but they come through with it as well. I'll be curious to see how that is. Speaking of pitching, let's get into that one as well. I've read today articles, recaps from Mike Wilson, the Knoxville News Sentinel, Ryan Shumpert, Rocky Top Insider, Eric Kane, VolQuest.com. I've read those three recaps today, and they differ on opinions on some things. So, but I've also, talking to people who's been down there, people who've kind of gathered a consensus among the team and stuff as well. So here's what I'm coming to on it. Pitching, weekend rotation, it's Coons, it's Mack. I think those are locks. I think those two are locks. The third one is going to come down to Brandon Arvidsson, Evan Blanco, and possibly even Cam Appenzeller. I would lean more toward Appenzeller as a dark horse for it. To me, I'm going Brandon Arvidsson. I'm going Brandon Arvidsson on it. But a lot of people are saying Evan Blanco was really good here in the fall and that he's come out of the fall solidifying himself in the rotation on the weekends. What way do you go with that? I don't know. I mean, I think whatever order you want to go. To me, it's Coons, Mac, Blanco, or Coons, Blanco, Mac. That's how I go. If it's that, or it's Coons, Arvidsson, Mac, that's, to me, where you go with this. Could it be different? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I just can't see how Coons is not the Friday night guy. I really don't. I think based on what he went and did in the Cape Cod League, he was, had some, he didn't pitch a lot here in the fall. So he, he said he got shut down. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing because you're saving his arm for the spring then at that point. That's a pretty good rotation. That's a pretty good rotation with a lot of potential. Then you look at the bullpen. You'll have one of Arvidsson or Blanco in the bullpen. Bo Rudy, Kennesaw State transfer. Everything I've seen says fastball's been really good. Braden Krenzel, my concern with Braden Krenzel's the control. He's got good stuff when he's on, but the walks. I mean, you look at in the Cape Cod League this summer, he was almost at a 1-to-1 ratio on walks to strikeouts. Got to fix that, and based on what I've heard this weekend, he had some walks as well. Brady Frederick, ETSU transfer, Southern Conference pitcher of the year. I've heard he had a little bit of a rough fall, but why I'm not concerned, because he's going against one of the best lineups in America, and we'll talk about that lineup here in a few minutes as well. Looking at it, one I would not get my hopes up on is Anson Seibert. Based on what I've heard and read, I saw Ben McKee of 24/7 put something out about this, and I've heard some stuff as well. I will be really shocked if Anson Seibert is even on the team come spring. Could be wrong on that one, but I would not get my hopes up on that one. And, looking at it as well, some of these freshmen that did good things. I mentioned Appenzeller. There's Ethan Biotto, freshman out of Texas, pretty highly thought of. You had DJ McDowell, who showed some. You had I've lost my list here of them as well. Jackson Estes is a dude. They said throws really hard. Chandler Day's a freshman, says gives a different look. Ari Bethea, Sawyer Deering. That's just a couple others. I don't know a lot about those two, to be honest with you, as I do the others on it. But then you've got your two-way guys who I think will throw some innings midweek. Blaine Brown, Taylor Tracy, Evan Hankins. I'd be really surprised to see them on the weekends. But I think during the week you're going to throw some guys. But, you've also got, who's going to be your midweek guy? Nick Abraham's a guy I've not mentioned. I would think it's him or Cameron Appenzeller as your midweek starter. Could be wrong on that. Abraham seems kind of like that could be a good role for him. But, could he be a weekend bullpen guy as well? It remains to be seen. But it's going to be a good pitching staff. It's not just going to be a bunch of guys throwing high 90s with no movement and little to no breaking balls. You've got, I didn't even mention Mark Indy, lefty from Duke. He's probably going to be more along your lines of like a Dylan Lloyd type based on what I've seen of him. So you've got a lot of different looks, a lot of different arm angles coming in. And I like that. You need a mixture because these guys can hit high 90s, 100. They can hit it if it's right down the middle. You got to have some movement. You got to have some secondary pitches. I think this staff will offer that along the way. Talking about the lineup, that's why, anybody that maybe got hit here in fall ball, I'm not that concerned about it because this lineup is loaded based on everything I've read, based on people I've talked to on it. Here's where I'm settled in right now, but there's 4 guys that I don't know how you get them all in, but maybe 5. There's so much talent on here. At catcher, I think it's going to be Stone Lawless. Based on everything I've heard, Stone Lawless, Garrett Wright's come in, heck of a catcher. But Stone Lawless, it seems, has had a really good fall and might have solidified himself in that role. First base going to be Levi Clark, and everything I've read and heard is this dude is ready for a big year, that he had a really good fall. He had a good summer in the Cape Cod. It's carried over to the fall here as well. The middle infield right now, based on everything I'm reading, I'm seeing Manny Marin at second base, Ariel Antigua at shortstop. Antigua had a really good fall. He's hit really well. That's going to be a hell of a middle infield, guys. I'm just telling you right now, that's going to be two guys that can cover some ground if that's the case. Third base looks to be Henry Ford. He's going to be in somewhere. He can play first, third, or outfield. But it's kind of seeming to me like he's going to play third base. But he could play the outfield as well. They've got a ton of options that they can go with as well in the infield. Because let's say if you put Marin at short, that gives options for Jay Abernathy or Chris Newstrom at second base. You could possibly play Tyler Myatt at third, Blake Grimmer at third. So many options. But my infield, based on what I'm reading Clark, Marin, Antigua short, Ford at third. Outfield, left field, Blake Grimmer. I've heard some say he's the best hitter on the team. I've heard he's worst case third or fourth best hitter on the team. You got to find a way to get him in the lineup. And I said coming into the season, he's my guy to watch out for. That I think he's in for a big year. He's one of those guys who's waiting his turn. And I think you're going to see him blow up this spring. Center field, based on everything I'm seeing, and he played it all weekend, is going to be Reese Chapman. Could they play Reese and Wright and Jay Abernathy in center? Certainly. They could on that. But I'm thinking Reese Chapman center, Chris Newstrom right field with it. That's going to put, well, that left field could be interchangeable. It's got to be, you're either looking at Blake Grimmer, Blaine Brown, Tyler Myatt in one of those three. And I would lean probably based on everything I've seen and read and heard of some combo of Grimmer and Brown there. But, man, you've got Tyler Myatt, you got Jay Abernathy. They've got to get at bats somewhere. They may get at bat. They could very well be in the lineup. So it's a best case guess for me. Not a best case, just a best guess for me right now. That's kind of where I'm at. But Abernathy, Myatt, Garrett Wright, Evan Hankins, Taylor Tracy, Trent Grenlinger at catcher. You got to think he might get some time back there as well. Those are the dudes hearing most about. And there's a lot of good guys that's not going to play. And if you're Josh, I don't envy Josh Elander having to make these decisions. But, with that said, things will change along the way. There will be some guys probably not hitting and get moved out and vice versa with it. But your midweek, I think you got some flexibility there. It'll be curious to see where they come out of the gates when they play Nicholls State in that first weekend as well. But the consensus, the bottom line to me is I don't think his team misses a beat. I really don't. They're fired up about Elander being there. You saw the reaction with the video when he was introduced as the coach. And if anything, they may be even more motivated to work harder for him along the way as well. I don't think all is lost with Tony Vitello leaving. I'm not saying it's a great thing by any means, but I think Josh Elander is the guy who can still get them to Omaha, and they can still win that national championship this year. This is Frank. This is the House of Orange, and I'll see you when I see you.